Hello and welcome to the bi-weekly cert-manager meeting. It is Thursday, the 12th of December. Uh, it looks like a short one this week, but we'll see what comes up in the call. As a reminder, we adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct, so be nice. And this will be posted on YouTube as soon as the recording is made available to us, so you can see our lovely faces on the internet. Doesn't look like there's any announcements this week, unless any of the other cert manager maintainers have any last minute announcements. Nod, shake. Nope. Okay, so we will go straight into the agenda, where we have Goodness showing us a little bit of the tutorial he has been working on, which I'm very excited to see. So, shall we start there?
Yeah, we can start with that. I just heading over to the page.
Cool.
I can share my screen, right?
Yep, I will stop sharing and let you take over. There you go.
Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen? Can you confirm?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, great. I just have to switch branch quickly because I kind of created a different branch for the tutorial.
The context
Yeah, so
while Goodness is setting up, Goodness joined our bi-weekly, it must have been a month or more ago, and offered to help, wanted to get involved. And one of the things he's been looking at is the getting started guides, and in particular the first of our getting started guides is the one that tells you how to get cert-manager working with the Nginx ingress on a local cluster, and we thought that could be brought up to date. That's what you've been working on, right? Goodness.
yeah, that's what I've been working on. So I kind of changed the structure because I kind of changed the structure because when I viewed it and I expected it, I noticed that there was no prerequisites telling people what they need before, hopping on the tutorial. So I added like a bit of prerequisites, a running Kubernetes cluster, of
Right.
course, being able to access your nodes, then a working domain, because of course you need a working domain for you to be able to carry out a TLSL certification. So from there, I went to step one, installing Helm. It's a similar structure. I just switched some things around. One thing that I switched around that I kind of made changes to was the structure, right? Because I felt like, because when I read it, I think the first thing was installing Let's Encrypt, but I felt like it was kind of out of order because if you are following the order of things, you need to first of all deploy a service and also deployment before you go down to, installing Let's Encrypt. So I decided to change it. So I switched it up a bit. I decided to
So we're just can I just so I understand, I think the existing tutorial. Do you mean to say that the existing tutorial sort of tells the user to start by installing cert-manager and installing a Let's Encrypt issuer in the cluster,
yeah.
even before they've just
Uh,
even before describing what the Let's Encrypt issued certificate is going to be used for?
Yeah, so the first, I think I can quickly switch my branch, but okay, do you know what? Let me duplicate
In a different tab, maybe. Yeah.
page. Let me duplicate this page. That'll be easier to see once I do that. Okay, great. So I can switch the branch back to the master branch. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I just want to, okay, so this is the original guide. See, the first
Yeah.
thing they had to deploy was, sorry, it's the controller, the Nginx controller. But I figured that if you want to deploy the Nginx controller, I think it should come after you when you want to talk about installing Let's Encrypt and cert-manager and all that. So I decided to like switch it up. I started with installing the deployments and the services so that at least it's going to be internally accessible between the deployment and the service itself. Give some directives on that. kubectl apply for the deployments. You can get the pods. You can inspect the service. You can you apply the services and also inspect the services as well to make sure that it's working. I kind of switched up the code a bit when it comes to let me just show you. So when it comes to the deployments, I noticed I didn't know if you have like current usage for the current files, and I had to switch up the files because first of all, you guys were using I think COD app, but I decided to use a simpler app. I think an LO Let's Encrypt app because I think it was simpler for me to like use that to break down the explanation and all. So I used that instead. So I switched up the application. So I needed to like change up the code base.
Is it KO?
Hard. I think KAURD. Yeah, that's
right. And we looked at the repository and it seems very out of date, doesn't it?
yeah. It seemed I think the last commit was about 2-3 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, so we had to switch that up to something more recent. So we used an Nginx LO app instead.
Okay.
So I added link to the code itself so that the users can directly install it into their cluster while they are following the tutorial. So that carries us to step 3, where we can now install the Nginx ingress controller to help you direct traffic to the right sources, right? So a quick expository on how to install it using Elm. Then after doing that, you can install the controller itself. When you install the controller, it comes in as, you can check it through the services, and it comes in as a Nginx ingress controller, right? And it serves as a load balancer. So if you do your installation right, you should get an IP, an external IP that you should be able to like front face to your domain in order for you to access your application itself.
So does this, amongst the prerequisites, does it say that this must be an internet connected cluster? A cluster where you have a public IP address?
Well, in the prerequisites, it says that it's a cluster where you must have a domain. Because when you install the Nginx ingress itself, you should be able to like get an external IP if you set it right. Right. So the domain is what's important as the prerequisite. So after installing the controller itself, I went on to installing the ingress, right? The ingress resource that you would use to redirect the traffic. So I kind of switched up the code there. Let me quickly show you that. I think it would be better if I can just, since this is out of the way, I can just use this other screen for it. Example. Okay. So this is the ingress. This is an ingress resource. I use the example.com, example.example.com, like a CNAME, right? So when you install this, redirects the traffic down here, like the IP, right? So all you need to do is to now append your external IP to your own domain name, right? Because this is like an example domain. So people that are following the tutorial would apply that to their own domain.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's after installing the ingress resource. Then what else? You can also test. So when you install the ingress resource itself, the domain name wouldn't be available. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see
Okay.
it.
Hold on. Sorry about that. I'm having some connection touches. Sorry about that, guys. Hold on. I'm trying to connect.
Yeah, no worries. If you need us to, I could share your.
Yeah. I think I shared you the link. That would be helpful. I don't know. I'm just having some touches with my cables. It's like, okay, I think it's working now. Okay, that's out of the way. It's working. I might have to reshare. So let me quickly do that. Sorry about that, guys.
No worries, take your time.
Okay. Okay, that's steps of one. Yeah, so as I was saying, as at the time where you install the ingress, it wouldn't be available. Like there's no domain name yet. I've not gotten to the part where you have to like add a domain name, right? So there's a way you can internally check for if the IP address is correctly appended to the domain name you choose. This should be example.example.com. I'm going to make changes here, but the point is that the host should be able to ping. When you add the host and the IP address together, you should be able to ping the host correctly, and this should be the output, right? You should see your host here and also see a 200 OK message showing that okay, well this is working, right? And of course, what the site will look like in our case is just a simple Hello World application. We're just testing ingress and let's encrypt. So that takes us to like step 4, where we have to like configure the DNS itself. So at this point, I just basically explained that all you need to do is to pick up the external IP, then go to your domain registrar, put it in there. If it's if you're using a normal IP address like 192 or something or 10 dot something, right? You basically or most likely use an A name. But if you're using a DNS name like the one that AWS gives to you, then you're definitely going to use like a C name because that's not going to work for A name, right? So I explained all that.
I've got some. I think we need to. Yeah, maybe you and I should talk about how to get this working with. I think it's not going to work with a private IP address, is it? It's not. We're going to have to make it really clear that this has to be run on a GKE cluster or so.
Well, if you can make the thing is that when I was doing the tutorial, I actually used micro K8. So I tested it using micro K8 cluster. I also tested it using EKS as well. So it should work if you configure your local micro K8 cluster to have an external IP. It actually worked with that.
That's the bit I don't understand. Maybe it's something in micro K8s that I'm not aware of. Is there some sort of ingress mechanism where it?
Yeah,
I don't understand. Yeah, that's the part I don't understand. I'm not gonna say anymore.
Okay. You're talking about the part where you can get the IP address, right?
If I install micro K8s on my laptop here,
okay,
and installed the Nginx ingress controller on that cluster, it would, as I understood it, the Nginx web servers that are running on the micro K8s nodes would be issued with like internal private IP addresses of the network on my laptop. So I wouldn't be able to assign those IP addresses to a DNS to any of my DNS names.
Oh, that's what you mean. Oh, yeah. My mistake. Yeah, that's actually correct.
It would work. It would work well on an EKS cluster.
Yeah, it will work on an EKS cluster. It would work properly on AKS as well, and as well as GKE. Yeah, so I think that can be added to the prerequisites. We could make those changes.
I think it would work on EKS.
Yeah, it would work. It would work on EKS. The only thing is that you wouldn't get like an IP address. You're going to get a DNS name if you are using EKS.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Carry on.
Yeah,
Let's assume we've figured that out, and we'll carry on troubleshooting it.
Okay, that's fine. So from there we go to the main gist of the whole tutorial, because at the end of the day, we want to install less TSL certificates using cert-manager, but we want to go through with the idea of the tutorial is to go through the Nginx route, right? So this is the step 5, where you have to first of all install your cert-manager, right? Then after installing your cert-manager, I kind of just followed the format you left, because I felt like it was easier to just put in a link that would take them to like the M guide. Yeah, for them to like just follow the procedure, then install cert-manager. So that's what I did. Then I think the changes I made majorly has to do with the issuers, because like I think in the former tutorial, it's used issuers, but I decided to change it to cluster issues because I felt like it's better to just make it cluster wide. So that's what I did. I changed it. So instead of the annotations to say cert-manager issuer, it's going to say cert-manager.io cluster issuer. So majorly that's the changes I made in this section, which I explained. And I also explained that I also explained how you could like get your certificates as well. Then I went to step C, where we would install the Let's Encrypt set issuer, cluster issuer rather. After installing the cluster issuer, you have to, verify it and describe it and make sure that, okay, the cluster issuer is working, it's true. It needs to show true, right? After that, in the tutorial, it has like two different stages. It has like two different environments. You have the staging and I think production. So that's what I did as well. After
Great.
installing the staging, you install the production as well, the idea of the staging is just to, follow it and make sure, okay, this is working fine. Then I will install the production. So it followed that same format. I didn't change that. So
we say to practice the configuration with the staging server so that you don't, if you use the production Let's Encrypt and you get it wrong, then you can use up like your request budget. They have quite a strict request limit.
Yeah, they do.
So that note is included in one or more of the other tutorials, so we could just copy that in here.
I included that as well.
Oh, you did? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I included that. I'm just trying to give like a high level breakdown of it. So I'm not like going into all the details, but I included that. It's definitely somewhere. So after doing that, you have to, there are two ways you could actually get your certificates. You could actually apply the annotation if you want, or you could directly request for the certificates. But with that, so you could use Ingress Chim. So that's what we use instead.
Okay.
In this tutorial. So after applying the ingress, and of course, that would mean, okay, there's something I changed here because in the previous one, in the previous one, the tutorial says you have to, install the other ingress. After installing the staging, you have to delete what do you call it? You have to delete the certificate and secrets for you to be able to like install apply the ingress for the production to get like the production certificate. But what I did was that I kind of changed the secrets because the idea is if it's using two different secrets, then it doesn't affect, right? So basically, the LO ingress has this secret name, staging app TLS rather, and production based has hold on, where is it? Yeah, there it is. The production has a different secret, so we don't have to delete the secret for the staging for us to apply the ingress for the production, right? So what I just did here was that I just basically told them, okay, do you know what? You could actually just change the ingress. If you change the settings of the ingress, like add in this case, you add the annotations for Let's Encrypt prod and also the secret name, it's just going to change to configure when you apply the ingress again. So basically, you're just like redoing the process, but you're changing the settings and it's reapplying and reconfiguring the ingress, right? So
okay.
I was just trying to like get to that, right? So basically you do that for the staging first of all. You get the staging certificate, right? Shows true. You can describe the certificate to show like the events and that follows through it, and you see okay that the certificate has been successfully issued at this point. You could also check the secrets, which I did check as well. Then after that, after you are sure that the staging certificate has been issued properly and it's working fine, then you can go on to like install the production certificates. So that way you don't use up your limits, right? So which I did, install the prod, worked fine as well. Then checked the order. So I think the only thing I changed, as I was trying to say in the chat, I think I sent you that message. You added something that had to do with I think let's go to the previous one. I think the challenge, I felt like the challenge wasn't really needed there because at the end of the day, I think challenge the whole challenge thing is it happens automatically, and sometimes you might not even be able to time it. By the time you check your Kubernetes
It's gone.
logs
Yeah.
for it, it's gone, right? So
Yeah.
I didn't see the need of putting it here. The only reason why you would actually need to add the challenge is if you are having some kind of problems. The certificate is not let's say it's not being issued properly, or it's not working, or your orders
Yeah.
are showing false, right? So I kind of removed that because I didn't think it was necessary, right? So that's what I did.
Right.
Then I just went to conclusion. So major difference is the challenge I removed, the prerequisites that I added, and okay, you said we're going to add something else to the prerequisites, telling them that you have to use either EKS or
Well, I didn't
AKS
mean, I think
or
let's talk
UK.
about it. Let's talk about it after the meeting, or when I actually get around to doing what I promised I'd do and review your pull request. Sorry, I haven't, goodness, but perhaps let's discuss it then. It's more general, isn't it? It's just, I think it just needs to say that for this to work, for Let's Encrypt to be able to be able to reach your Acme challenge server running inside the cluster needs to have an internet IP, or at least Let's Encrypt needs to be able to
The
reach
public facing
it
IP.
somehow.
Yeah.
There's various ways
Yeah.
of doing that, but we can
Yeah.
talk about that later. It
Okay,
looks really,
that's
look, thank you for putting all this effort in, and sorry for my lack of responsiveness lately, but
that's
it'll be
fine.
good, and it'll be nice to all the other tutorials we've been putting at the top, the date at which they've been verified to be working, and we can finally update this tutorial with such a message too.
Okay, that's fine. That's okay.
Yes, great.
Okay, I think this concludes the section, so I can stop sharing now.
Before you do, is there any questions or any comments? Maël, you've got your hand up.
Oh, I'm clapping.
Oh, are you? Sorry.
Well done. Well done. Goodness.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And Adam is clapping too. It's not a raised hand, it's a clap. Yeah.
Okay, that's noted.
So Miguel and Adam, you've been discussing in the chat external DNS. I've forgotten everything about that. How does that help in this instance, Adam?
So in I linked to the current deploy a sample web server tutorial, and we referenced the fact that if you don't want to set up DNS manually, external DNS is a project that lets you just annotate an ingress or service resource, and it will talk to Brew 53 or like GladDNS, or it's got a bunch of providers understands, and it lets you provision DNS records.
Right.
So it basically it's basically a way of saying I wouldn't take this tutorial and say install external DNS and set up RBAC, because that's like a whole tangent and rabbit hole to go down for in this tutorial. But I think a shout out to say, like, if you want to automate this and not have to do manual DNS, then here is a project that you can read up about is a good shout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We could check that out. I'll know that. I've noted that down. Probably when I and Richard go over it, then we can implement and add that as well.
Yeah, like similar to the page I've linked in the Zoom chat, it's literally we've literally got a note saying, if you don't want to do this manually, here's a link to another project.
Okay. That's okay. Okay. Noted.
If you guys can hear me, which I don't know if it's still an issue.
I can now, yeah.
I wonder, because this seems very HTTP challenge centric, which is fine, like for most basic users, that's probably the first setup. But I wonder if we should replicate this tutorial into a more DNS-based challenge approach, which I think is more secure and, well, I don't know if more secure, but at least neater in many ways. And it also works for clusters that are not exposed to the internet, at least directly.
Okay.
And use wildcards also.
Yes,
Sorry,
Miguel, that's a good idea. Goodness, we can talk about that as well. I don't. There's
okay,
not. I can't remember it in the. So I wrote in the Google getting started. the Google GKE tutorial, I used HTTP challenges. In the Azure one, I think I used DNS, and maybe in the EKS tutorial, I used DNS2. So it's a bit inconsistent.
Oh,
We
okay.
could, we should, maybe we should, we could say in this tutorial that Goodness is writing, updating, that there is this alternative mechanism. And we could go into a bit more detail about how to set up a DNS challenge-based system. And mention what Maël just said. I didn't realize, I hadn't twigged that. So it's not, is it, Maël, are you saying it's not possible to use HTTP-01 for wildcard certificates?
Oh, not with Let's Encrypt, at least.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe for others, but I don't know the others because I never tried.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's like mostly the reason people go to DNS-01 is because of wildcards.
Right.
That's why I used it.
Well, I mean,
I've never heard
there's
anyone say that in all the years I've been working on cert-manager.
It also
spelled that out for me.
there are actually a lot of other security concerns with like the HTTP challenge. It forces you to expose your cluster in the port 80, even though you later then do a redirection, but you need to have the port 80 exposed. And many audits, basically that's a no-go from the get-go.
Right.
It also
Oh, that's a good point.
you actually don't expose any port as well when you're doing DNS. So you could as long as you own the domain, you can issue a cert for something you only intend to expose public, actually listen to internally if you wanted to.
So is there anything at all to be said about HTTP-01?
If you don't have good control of your DNS, like it's not supported by cert-manager, or another team owns it and doesn't want to give you API keys, like it is a mechanism. It's like
okay.
Cool.
And talking about, sorry, I had to mention it. Talking about DNS, external DNS, there is a way to use external DNS to do the challenge with an external. That there is someone in the community created
it was me.
Oh, you are? Wait, what?
Look at the chat.
Okay, so when I said someone, I didn't know it was Adam. Adam created a plugin to use external DNS to perform the challenge.
Right.
I don't think
Is it
anyone's
the proof
using
of concept, or is it someone? Is anyone using it?
I don't think anyone's using it. I did a proof of concept, and then I don't think anyone actually wanted to use it. Like it's got 0 stars.
But no. Someone. I remember opening an issue 4 years ago, and a bunch of people were asking for it. So, but you shared it in this issue, right?
Yeah. So there was an issue about people wanting it to be internal. That's why I made this as a proof of concept of why it didn't have to be internal. You can do it via the webhook. You just find the issue.
I think Adam, I think it's worth looking at. I'm actually viewing. I think you shared it on the chat, so I'm actually viewing the repository at the moment, and I think it's something worth looking at. I would actually add it, even if it's not in this particular tutorial. I think challenge is something I actually kind of suggested that we do a separate piece for challenges. So it could be something where we are trying to troubleshoot and probably create a problem with challenges, then try to fix it using external DNS.
Yeah. Yeah, Miles just posted the original issue about wanting external DNS support.
We should, shall we move on, Adam, so that we have time for other items?
Yeah.
Okay. So I can stop sharing.
Thank you again, Goodness, for all this work. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
All round
Thank
of
you.
applause. And yeah, if you stop sharing, I can take back over.
Okay.
You can bear with me while I once again scroll through all the windows I've got open to find the one I want to share.
I was just thinking maybe if Miguel has got his audio sorted, we could I didn't see his agenda item because it was in the proposals rather than in this this particular meeting. We could discuss that item.
If
So we could,
that's okay with you and you guys hear me correctly.
Is that
yes,
okay
we can
with everyone?
transition to that. Do you want to share?
I'm gonna. I hope you can forgive me. I am literally on the airport and I am on my phone, so sharing my screen. If someone can do it for me, I sent a link. It's a bit cumbersome, but you guys only meet every 2 weeks, and I was not missing my chances.
Fair enough. If you want to share the link in the Zoom chat, then sure.
I did. There we go. It should be there, right? Yeah. I open up a discussion on the GitHub repo, but basically the TLDR is very simple. So we a couple of weeks ago we were faced with a problem with Kida, which is an auto-scaling solution that has nothing to do with cert-manager. But basically we nailed it down to them having a misconfigured KPI infrastructure. They were basically generating using cert-manager. They were generating a root CA, and they were also generating leaf CAs in order to use Kubernetes webhooks because they have a HTTPS requirement, right? That is fairly standard. The basic problem was that the root CA was misconfigured in that it was allowed to live for too long before it was renovated. And that meant that the leaf certificate would go into a state where even though the leaf certificate in itself is valid, since the root CA has expired, the leaf becomes unavailable or untrustworthy, so to speak. And to the current status of cert-manager, that's a valid state. As in the cert-manager only cares whether the certificate is valid or not, and it will renew it according to your specs. But it will never check whether the root CA is still valid, even though I think it has that information. My big question here is, does it make sense to add an extra field, maybe even do a breaking change in which cert-manager will actively renew the certificate if it has detected that any of the certificates upper up in the chain has expired, or maybe it doesn't make sense. I've also referenced in the link there a scenario where cert-manager is doing technically the correct thing, as in, for example, Let's Encrypt did that. It issued a certificate that was signed by an expired root CA. So it is a valid concern, but I wonder if it's a valid concern for like most of the people. So maybe there is a need of change of defaults in here.
Well,
I hope I made my.
which issue are we talking about?
This was all like self-signed issuers. So they were just like basically automating PKI infrastructure locally.
Oh, that links really well with what Ash has been working on. Ash has added a note for the CA issuer that talks exactly about these caveats. I will try to find a link. I don't know if it relates to this, but I'll find a link.
Does cert-manager allow you to issue certificates past the lifetime of the thing that it's signing with?
Yes. Yes. Or yes. Well, Ash wrote it in the. I'll share the link. I'll find it. We verified that it does, and it does because we had an outage, so we know.
Okay.
Did you know about that, Adam?
I think it shouldn't. I think that's I think I think you shouldn't issue a certificate that can someday just become invalid, like for no good reason.
And then there is no warning either. So
yeah. So that is part of the problem. I think the fact we let people get into this state. As for going back up the chain and renewing, like, you can still have the case where someone imports certificates and they've imported certificates in a weird state where the root is got a really short expiry, but the leaf is signing with has a longer expiry. You can still get to that state even if we fix that cert-manager thing. So as for going up and like renewing, I don't know, because cert-manager has no way of verifying that you have rotated the root. Eric, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to mention that we use the Vault issuer, and it's even stricter. It won't issue a certificate which extends the lifetime of the CA. So this is an area which is very interesting, but I wish Ash was here.
But is it Vault that refuses to sign the certificate? It's not the
Yes.
Vault issuer in cert-manager that does
No,
it.
it's Vault itself. It refuses when cert-manager tries to ask Vault to issue to sign a certificate. It will refuse to sign it if the requested lifetime of the leaf certificate extends the CA lifetime.
Right. So you do get the application team who have created this certificate, which is too long-lived, gets feedback that there's a problem.
Yeah. So the way we solve it is that we ensure that the CA extends the lifetime of the policy that we set for the certificates in our cluster. So that way our users won't get this problem in their face.
Miguel, I didn't understand Maël asked you which issuer you were using, and I think you said self-signed. I didn't understand.
I think
Did
he's
you mean-
using both.
So basically, I mean, so for the context here is that Kubernetes webhooks need HTTPS certification, right? And for that, you don't need like a publicly valid cert-manager. You just need like basically like a manually created root CA and a leaf certificate. And you can chain a self-signed root CA with a leaf certificate and cert-manager and just generate that PKI infrastructure for you for free.
Right. So your issuer resource you had two issuer resources in your cluster. One was a self-sign for the root, and one was a CA issuer for to sign the leaf.
Is it?
So it is exactly the problem that Ash has just been documenting.
Yeah, so it's fair to say that if we didn't let you sign a certificate longer than the lifetime of the thing you're signing with, this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, and it's a proposal that I think Ash will make to the project maybe very soon.
I'd be totally in favor of that proposal.
Maybe who said Vault is doing this already? Like, if Vault fails requesting a certificate that is longer than the certificate it is signing? Yeah, but what about it to be? So what we had at Venafi is a bit different. We had an intermediate that failed, but what the expiry wasn't. The expiry was the one of the roots. So the root expired. This problem would not have been caught if we had implemented this. So on top of this, of this new feature that prevents a CA, some certificate to sign another certificate with a longer lifetime, it would be great if possible. I don't know if it's even possible because sometimes we don't know the CA. Maybe cert-manager doesn't even know where the CA is, but have a warning that says, watch out, there's one certificate in the chain that will be expiring before the leaf expires. So it's two different things. Ash, I think, will propose something for signing a certificate. The sign-in certificate should not expire before the leaf, or the sign certificate. And then there is the warning thing that is.
Miguel, in the discussion, talked about something that Let's Encrypt did, where they cross-sign, and I'd be interested to understand that a bit better. But I think perhaps there are rare cases where you do want to sign a certificate which extends beyond the lifetime of the CA. If you've got another CA which you can cross-sign.
Oh, if you have multiple ways of
which
verifying,
might be some people might say that's the proper way to rotate the root.
I remember being an absolute nightmare to try and cross-sign in Go, though. So I don't know if we want to implement any cross-signing ourselves or just support cross-signed certificates. Like that people do it externally, then import. Tim's had his hand up for a while. I don't want to leave him waiting.
I added in the chat already. Basically, if we just limit how long a certificate can live for when it's issued, we can alleviate this issue. And it's easy to do this for CA issuer. I think we only have to look at the parent, actually, because if we go any further than the parent, it's not really our problem. We are only issuing a certificate from the parent, let's say. So that also kind of alleviates the cross-signing stuff. Because if we have an intermediary that was cross-signed, we just look at the intermediary we sign using the intermediary. And then for a CA issuer and cert-manager, it's quite easy to do this because we have the certificate in a secret. I think for Vault it's much more difficult because Vault, well, we send the CSR to Vault and we tell Vault, okay, we want the certificate to live this long, but we don't know beforehand what CA will be used to sign it. So we don't know what's possible, right?
I think
Richard said that it would fail anyway, so we don't have to add this logic.
Vault already has this
Well-
behavior, so I as opposed to like
Okay.
trying to do magic to work out like if we should sign it, I think we just say Vault has this behavior baked in already. We'll put it into the ones where we're explicitly signing, like CA issuer, and we should maybe document somewhere that if you're writing issuers with a cert-manager, you should ensure that you don't issue longer than the lifespan of the thing you're issuing.
It was Eric that said it, Maël. I was just
Oh, Eric,
paraphrasing.
sorry.
Yeah. I said that
Questions also
Vault has this feature already, so
Yes.
there's not a need for cert-manager to do anything on top of this.
Well, there is also a question like, do we just not sign it, or do we say, let's limit the lifetime of the leave certificates? So with Vault, you could actually say, okay, let's just limit it to the parent, and then it wouldn't fail necessarily. It would only sign
That's-
Okay,
the Vault.
You can do that with Vault. I mean, we just have
Okay.
a default configuration, and at least in the default, it just refuses to sign it, which I think is probably the best we could do.
I'd be in favor of refusing to sign hard
Yeah.
failing. Then like you get more warning your CA is about to expire.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the
It's
worst case
another
scenario,
one.
if we like, let's say my CA is expiring in 6 months and I'm trying to issue a cert for a year, if it just silently lets me sign a certificate and just gives me a 6-month one, the same length as my CA, in 6 months time, it's gonna when it comes to renewal again, I'm gonna go, oh crap, my CA is about to expire. Whereas if it fails hard immediately, then like I've got time to remedy the situation. Especially since like in cert-manager by default we rotate 2/3 of the way through, so you get that third window of your cert to try and rotate your CA.
I think we just have to. The conclusion is that we just have to implement what Vault has in the CA issuer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agree.
if that raises a proposal, I would 100% vote on it.
Me too.
Me too.
So now we have to find someone who does that.
So the final solution is to add a field just to make it configurable, or we're not going to even allow the use case that Let's Encrypt had back in the day.
I think that the outcome was to not let people get in this state in the first place by not letting you sign certificates longer than the thing you're signing with. So in your case, you've used self-signed to issue your root, then you use your root to issue an intermediary. If we didn't let the CA issuer issue an intermediary longer than your root, then you wouldn't have gotten this place in the state in the first place. And that's by fixing it at that point, I think we solved more pain points, because it means customers don't have to rotate the route, which is a right pain.
But maybe it's a use. Maybe it breaks
wonder,
backwards compatibility. Maybe
Yeah,
people are
No,
already.
We're not afraid of breaking backwards compatibility in the name of like fixing stupid stuff. Like as long as we do it on a
Well,
nice document it.
how I would like to. What do you think could happen? I know any change could break people. I know this. Like I know.
Well, you
But
might have like an intermediary that has a lifespan of, let's say, 1 year, and for some reason all the leaf certificates that you're requesting are all requested with a duration of 2 years, for example. Then that means that you will never be able to get any certificates. It's kind of a misconfiguration maybe, but it works right now, and it won't work after
it does. So you're right.
you change this.
I wonder if
So
the
is that what
solution is.
you're asking, Miguel? Miguel.
Yeah. So like, I think maybe I think we all agree that this is obviously something cert-manager should prevent and should just like not allow you to do. But as you guys mentioned, it's probably a breaking change in a very subtle way, and certificates are always like an annoying thing that ends up biting you somewhere I shouldn't mention. So maybe the best solution is to, hey, make this breaking change, knowing it is a breaking change, and allow it, but maybe adding a field that allows this more reckless behavior if you opt into it.
What about introducing it behind the feature gate?
I was about to say, I was like, I think this should be default behavior.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So, but I also agree that there could be some people in there could be some people who break. So a feature gate that we then promote over a core releases.
Yeah.
Will give time to.
But I don't think no one is disagreeing that this should be the default behavior. My question is whether the other behavior is reasonable enough that cert-manager should support it, even though it may be like an advanced setup.
But introducing it behind the feature gate will allow us to find that out, I think. Because typical, we will start with it not being enabled by default, and then we will enable it by default, but you can still turn it off. So I think it will be very hard to get the information we're looking for. We could, of course, discuss it a bit more, but we won't get a very clear answer about how people use cert-manager before we actually start doing this.
Yeah. I think if we put it on a feature gate,
if we
as Eric has said, if we put it on a feature gate and it's off by default to begin with and people can opt in, and then we make it the default behavior but leave the feature gate so people can turn it off. When we flip it on by default, if we have an influx of issues on cert-manager, then yeah, we know that maybe we want to add a flag in there to keep this behavior. But if there's not an influx of issues, then I think we're okay.
I mean, that's good with me. I guess what Let's Encrypt did is a very weird use case, and I'm pretty sure they don't use cert-manager, so I think that's fine.
Oh, Let's Encrypt is not using cert-manager.
I am well aware we are rolling up on the hour. So Roll never showed. I can't see him in the Zoom call. So I think we push these off till the next one, which will probably be the new year. And shall we move on to Maël to give you 2 minutes to talk about ContribFest?
Oh yes, thank you. It is not official yet because it has been submitted but not accepted. But most probably it will be. I hope it will be accepted. You will probably be able to come if you come at KubeCon in London in April. You might be able to come to the ContribFest session for the cert-manager project. We will curate a list of interesting issues, and we will welcome and onboard people to the project. And I think it's going to be interesting and successful. Richard, Eric, and I are listed in the as speakers, although I don't think it's about speaking on this one. Maybe there is a presentation to give at the very beginning, like a onboarding small presentation, but it's it's a 1 hour and a half, and it will happen on the 1st of April. if you're coming to KubeCon. Oh, and the last thing is, I don't know if it's possible to change the people the people listed in the submission I made. I need to check this, but there is one spot left for a maintainer to join us. So if anyone,
I actually checked the conditions there. Once it's accepted, they can consider exchanging speakers.
great.
So it's
So-
possible, if it's accepted, we can request a change or add more speakers.
Oh, thank you, Eric. So
Yeah.
even more valid to talk about this. There is one spot left. It gives you the privilege of not paying the ticket, I think. I'm pretty sure. As any session that you speak to, although this one is not really speaking, we are not really speaking, but it gives you a free ticket. So it's.
I'm not sure if you have taken part in the ContribFest, but I went to the Crossplane ContribFest in Amsterdam a year and a half ago, and that was really, really fun.
I was always very busy because of the cert-manager booth.
Yeah.
So that's my.
I can assure you it was very fun, and it started out with a short presentation of what we were going to do, and the seating was limited, so it was fully booked pretty fast, and the people who were there at this ContribFest for Crossplane it was awesome, both the mentors and the other participants. So it was a very, very interesting session.
Wow, I think it's going to be awesome. Like, so many people turned up came to our previous presentations, even though they were really late in the day. So this one will be packed. It's going to be great. I cannot wait. I hope it will get accepted.
Cool. I noticed that Raul, you've just joined. You're joining at the very end of the meeting. The meeting is 5 o'clock UK GMT time. So we were just wrapping up, but I noticed you've got some things on the board. Given we're just wrapping up the meeting, we can push these off to the next one, or you could raise them as threads in our Slack and we can continue them as a conversation there. Either option is fine with me.
Oh, okay. Oh, I realized 5 p.m. UK is 10 PST, but it's not like that. Okay, maybe then I can follow up on the Slack channel. It's cert-manager dev, correct?
Yeah, that's our dev channel. That's where we are. If you at the cert-manager maintainers, that's us. But yeah, we have to avoid confusion. We also are part of the CNCF calendar, so you can always find our meetings on here.
Okay. Yeah, last time I think it was 10 PST. Okay, sounds good. I can then ping on the Slack.
I wonder if last time it was before the clocks had changed. We observed daylight savings here in the UK, so the clocks have changed.
It's really confusing. I hope they will stop doing that soon.
It's probably harder to stop at this point than ever because now it's all baked into everyone's software.
Yeah, like even in California we have daylight savings, but it changes next year in March.
Yeah, but I've noticed that the daylight savings date is different in the US than it is in the UK. The date the clocks change.
So that is confusing, and then again another confusion. Okay, sounds good. Then I will ping on the Slack channel.
Yeah, and yeah, if it warrants further conversation, then we can always have it in the next week. We've got looking at the calendar. I don't know if we're going to do one on Boxing Day. That may be too keen of us. But for the next one, probably the 9th of January.
Okay.
I had a look at your subject, and I think it looked really interesting. So I joined late today, so I'm actually glad that you didn't come. So we will postpone to next time.
Yeah, I think two key things I wanted to discuss, but I can follow up on Slack threads.
Oh,
Brilliant.
now I want to hear about this.
I can say if you guys are interested, like,
We can go as long as
My
battery
daughter is
goes, but-
waiting.
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Click into the document in the agenda, and then you will see what this is about. That is the first one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What I'll do, I'll take these two and I will move them to the top agenda so they can be added to the next time. I've captured the action item for the last one. And yeah, shall I do the outro?
Oh, one last thing. You said that we would cancel a meeting. Shall we cancel it now and have it just have a note here that says we will not have
Oh yeah,
the,
yeah. So let's
the
effectively,
next one?
for the YouTube video, we are I'll do it after you've gone, but I'll put a note here
Yeah,
saying the time
thanks.
finished, and I'll drop a note in the Slack channel tomorrow. Cool. So thank you all for attending this bi-weekly meeting, the last one of 2024. I hope to see you all in 2025. And yeah, remember to like and subscribe. See you all next year. Have a fantastic holiday and New Year.